Foundations of Amateur Radio. During the week I received an email from a fellow amateur who described that they were feeling deeply disturbed by the decline of the core knowledge underlying the education and certification of today's new amateurs. This is a topic I've covered previously, and some of what I'm about to say will touch on things I've said before. I come from a long background in information technology. My first introduction was around the Motorola 6502 processor in the early 1980s. At that time, a computer with 5 kilobytes of memory was a big deal. I learnt to harness every byte and nurture every bit. I learnt machine code, BASIC, Pascal and Modula-2, which went on to form the basis of my current profession. The reason I raise this is because there are many parallels in the evolution of amateur radio and the evolution of information technology. For many years I lamented the dumbing down of the skill set associated with newly fledged computer graduates. In a nutshell, hand-coded would always beat Java. I held that view for a long time, until it occurred to me that in the big picture it didn't matter. Let me elaborate before you start jumping up and down. In computing, every 2 or so years, everything doubles: speed, memory, bandwidth, etc. The price pretty much stays the same. This means that the inefficiencies introduced by quote, high-level unquote, languages like Java result in very little in the way of performance loss, but in return the actual process of writing new software accelerates. This means that you end up with more functionality quicker, at the cost of less efficient code. That's a pretty reasonable trade-off. If that example doesn't speak to you, it's the difference between rolling out turf from the back of a truck to construct a new golf course and teeing off in days, compared to spending a week planting grass from seed, nurturing it and waiting at least 2 months until you might consider playing around. Does a golfer care if it was rolled turf or planted seed? A similar thing is happening in our hobby. The advent of software-defined radio creates a new category of experimentation. The component count is reduced by several orders of magnitude, in return for functionality built by way of software and maths. Of course, that means that the new amateur of today has no idea in the operation of a valve and only limited understanding of a transistor. But, in return, they can create new modes, such as Whisper, JT65, Codec 2 and the massive evolution of other digital experiments. And they can do that with tools unheard of 5 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. I am an example of an amateur who knows of the existence of a valve, and I have a rudimentary understanding of how it works. I am seriously considering building my own software-defined radio, from scratch. I understand that this might not be something that comes easy, and may even be seen as detrimental to the hobby. But I dare say that the introduction of the valve to a spark gap operator caused the same experience, let alone the introduction of the transistor, the integrated circuit, or the explosion of cheap single-on-chip systems that can be had for cents in the dollar. The essentials still remain. For example, right now I'm working on an antenna. It involves sourcing nuts that seem to be made from unobtainium, even though they're completely standard in our community and have been for longer than I've been alive. The self-learning of our hobby, the exploration, the investigation, the curiosity will endure. What we're going to be playing with tomorrow is not going to be anything like what we were doing yesterday, and I'm okay with that. That our hobby is changing is unmistakable. That's true for every human endeavour ever. I don't agree that there is a decline, nor do I think we've lost more than we've gained. I think the future of our hobby, our community and our pursuits is strong and bright. I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Foxtrot Lima Alpha Bravo.